Some of you guys may be familiar with a little bitty company known as Panasonic from Japan. And Panasonic back in the day made some really good desktop cassette recorders like this one. They were kind of the king of it, actually. So if you were going to take notes at your school, like take a tape recorder to your class and tape a lecture, or take it to the church and record your pastor's sermon, you might have carried around a cassette recorder like this. They were also great to, record family gatherings, get-togethers, and, gatherings around the piano and singing tunes together and that sort of thing. But they were really, really durable and very well made. And this particular unit here, my son bought off eBay, and the guess is that it's somewhere in the mid-'80s that it was made. And I don't have any proof of that on here, at least. But you can see it is a model number RQ-2018, or 2108. Sorry. But in any case, very well built, uses 4 C batteries. Now, my son bought this because he's going to hook his Nintendo family computer up to it and use it to save programs. As far as jacks go, it has an AC adapter as well as a DC adapter capability, so you could plug it in using a DC adapter or the AC adapter, DC for your car. And then you've got these 3 connections here. You've got monitor. Some of them have a remote plug right there. This one just happens to have a hole. And then mic was the other jack. So his particular computer does not use the remote function. It doesn't turn the machine on and off like my Radio Shack color computer does. So this one wouldn't be ideal for me. But in any case, it has a nice big speaker and it has a decent bassy sound to it, at least for its size. The issue that we're having with it is that it will play a cassette. I mean, you can see the tape moving inside of here, but the problem is no sound is coming out. You're just hearing the hissing sound, almost like you're listening to a blank cassette. Now, my theory is that there is a switch inside of here on the circuit board, and that switch is connected to this little this little key right here, the record key. And it's supposed to release when you go back to play mode, and there's a chance that either the contacts are dirty or that the unit itself just is stuck, that particular thing. So I can go in and I can hit fast forward and hit play, and a minute ago the take-up reel wasn't turning. Looks like it's not again. Let's check it. Ah, look, it ate the tape. Oh no, help! It's eaten my tape. What do I do? Well, luckily it's not a tape I really care a whole lot about. That is a good point, by the way. If you're going to try out a tape machine and do some repair on it, you might not want to use a cassette that you really care a lot about. So I'm going to test my theory. I'm going to pull the hood on this thing and go inside and see if that switch, cleaning that switch, actually does the trick. So let's go there. All right, with the hood taken off, you can see here there were 4 screws that needed to be removed. You can see the posts on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in here. And then there was one in the battery cover as well. Had to take the battery cover off and take that screw off. So let's take a look at the unit itself. Now, surprisingly, this thing has a plastic chassis on it. A lot of the older ones, much older ones, had metal chassis on them. And look at the buildup of dust bunnies over the years. There's quite a bit of them here. You can see them there on that speaker there as well. But, when I was a kid growing up, I loved tape recorders. I must have had 50 million of them throughout my life. And the majority of them, I just took them apart and turned them into desk fans or whatever, using the motor, because I was crazy as a child. But in any case, I really had a lot of fun with these particular recorders because of the sound quality was really quite good. But I want to give you a hint as to where that switch is, and that hint is typically a line of solder points, and you'll see them right in the middle of your screen now. This little line of solder points indicates that there's a switch, and this long switch in here typically handles your record and playback switching, functioning between the two. It's very common with almost any tape deck or tape recorder, with the exception of newer ones which actually use electronic switching, which is actually kind of smart. You'll also notice there's a metal case around it. You can see it there. And then there's like a looped type connector where some kind of pin underneath grabs that switch and pulls it from one direction to the other. So usually some kind of a rod sticks up on the inside somewhere. But you can see the latter end of it, the back end of it, right there. So the idea is to get some spray, some contact spray, and spray it down inside of this switch, like you see there. The gap that you see there is where you would stick the little hose, spray down in there, and then turn that switch on and off a bunch of times. And a lot of times that will clear up the problem that we're having here, which again is no sound, or at least no playback. There is sound, there's a hiss that comes out, but no music is coming out. And we did have music playing on it at one point, and then it just quit once we did a test record. So the next step would be to use some contact cleaner, and I happen to have some really high quality Radio Shack brand non-flammable control contact cleaner and lubricant. So I will use some of that, spray it down in there, and we'll see if this thing comes back to life. All right, super easy fix if this in fact fixes it. All right, so I've taken my contact cleaner and I've sprayed it down in here. So I take my little hose, stick it down in there, and sprayed there, and then I went in and sprayed underneath these controls right here. These are called potentiometers, your volume controls and tone control, because they had kind of a staticky sound. But then you say, well, how in the world can you exercise that switch? Because when you press the record button on the top, it doesn't go anywhere, right? Well, there is a little button in the back of the tape well, and it tells the machine that the tab has been removed from your tape so that you can record on it. You can see it right there, right where my finger is, and that little black button right there. If you press that in, it will fool the machine and allow you to press the record button. Okay, now this is a little bit difficult for me because I'm holding the camera with one of these hands here. But once you do that and press the button, then you can then exercise that particular button here. So I'm going to try this with a little bit of craziness here. Okay, did you see it move? All right, so that's the switch that we want to exercise back and forth. So what I'd recommend is just keep your finger on that little piece in there, that little switch, and then hit the record button, and then turn it off and on a bunch of times, and then see if your sound quality comes back. I just think this is so bizarre that they made this with just a hole there for the remote plug. That is just strange. Maybe it had a plug in it at one point and the plug fell out. Who knows? All right, so the next step is to put it back together and see if she actually works, which is another strange part of this design. Is even with the unit, just those 4 screws taken out, I can actually pull the top shell off and look inside the chassis here. Now this is really cool because this one is gear driven. A lot of your older tape decks are belt driven, and well, there is one belt in here, but these pulleys here have a tendency to have a little roller on them, and those rollers wear out. So this is pretty cool that this one happens to be gear driven, and I'll have to see when I hit play what engages that take-up spindle there, because as you saw earlier, it was not turning. But you can see and hear as I turn it, it's in contact with a gear in there. So you can't have a slipping gear a lot of times, unless the gear, of course, is stripped itself. But might be a good idea to clean the head while in here with some alcohol on a Q-tip, and also hit your capstan and your pinch roller as well. So this has years of wear and tear on it there. You can see that capstan's kind of dirty. So we'll do that as well before we patch it up, and maybe even take a vacuum cleaner and get some of these dust bunnies out of here. Whoever had this must have had it hanging out in an attic or something for a long time. All right, let's go on to the next step. All right, after vacuuming out the unit and testing it, I actually did get some sound out of it, which was good. But when I did a recording, the recording sounded a little distorted. So I thought, you know what, let's go crazy and take the circuit board off. Then I can really show you what this switch is doing here. So here's the switch, and here's the little arm that moves back and forth from record to play. All right, so when it's not pushed, it's playing back. When it's pushed, it's recording. So I went ahead and sprayed down inside of there on this end of it with some of that contact cleaner. And then this is the little piece that pushes it. This little metal clip right here that you see is actually what pushes on that switch when you hit the record button. But I'm amazed at the simplicity of this. I mean, the circuit board has practically nothing on it. I mean, very little circuitry there. And you can see this is the bottom piece of the plastic chassis. So now that we've vacuumed and done some more cleaning, let's turn it over and see if we can get a better recording out of it. I've made my test recording. Now let's see if it actually plays back. Here we go.
Hello there, databits fans. This is your special test recording that has been made on this ancient Panasonic home recorder. We really hope you enjoy the clarity and awesomeness of the sound quality of this now repaired machine, and hope it makes you happy. Goodbye.
All right, well, it makes me happy when things actually work. I was going to show you the power supply that came with this thing. Look at this round power supply. Maybe a little premonition of Apple's way of doing things later on with round power supplies. But okay, so now we can put it all back together and test it once more and see if it continues to work. Here we go.
Well, the unit has been reassembled, and this is the recording that has been made after reassembling. You're hearing this roaring sound in the background, and I think it is due to a noisy motor. So the motor has got like a bearing bad in it or something, causing this vibration that's being picked up by the microphone itself. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this recording, and please press the stop button.
Thank you for watching this video. Please share this with a friend. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure and check out the Radio Shack color computer broadcast that we did recently and featured a Radio Shack Tandy brand cassette recorder as well. And I will see you next time.